So in 2023, there were 14% of Americans who contributed the full $22,500 into their 401k plan, which was raised up to $23,000 in 2024. Now the good news is that 78% of Americans are contributing the full amount to the employer contribution. In other words, if an employer is matching 5% of your income that you put in, you know, people are putting their 5% in, so they're getting that full potential. And that number is growing. I know personally, just from the company that I used to work for, at one point it was only about 70% of the people. And we actually had the plant manager in a company meeting come out and tell everybody, hey, if you're not contributing the full amount, you're leaving money on the table. And you definitely are. So contribute that full amount that the employer matches. So another thing you can do is go ahead and start saving now, okay? Because time is your friend. When you're young and you're investing, time is always your friend. And let me grab my notes here. So this was in 2023. Americans 25 to 34 years old had an average of $37,000 in their nest egg with a median of $14,000. 35 to 44 was $97,000 with a median of $36,000. 45 to 54 was $179,000 with a median value of $62,000. 55 to 64 was $556,000 and $90,000 median. And 65 plus was $280,000 with a median value of $88,000 in their nest egg. So you can base that on what you currently have in your accounts and kind of use that as a yardstick to see where you're at. But when it comes right down to it, you know, you need to look at your own plan, because those values are, you know, just a broad stroke, and that's what everybody's doing. And I'm going to guess that if you're watching channels like this, you're probably doing better than the average or the median, because you're trying to take care of your retirement in your golden years. So as I mentioned in the intro, always, always, always match your company contributions, because that's just money left laying on the table. And those contributions really help out. Well, actually, if you stop and think about it, if you're saving 5% and your company's putting 5% in, and then you take a look at Social Security, which is 6.25%, I believe, and the company's putting in 6.25%, you know, you've got basically 11+% of your income that's going in that you don't have to do anything with. I was very fortunate. We also had a pension, and our pension, they were putting 11% in, and that was a new pension. I actually had two different pension plans. One was a formula base, which they stopped in 2014, and then I had about 10 years of just a straight across the board pension where they put another 11% of my income into it. So I was very fortunate in that aspect. But always take into consideration that you may not think you're saving very much. I'm only saving 5%, but you know, it adds up. You got money going into Social Security. You may have money going into a pension, and those numbers all add up, and you need to combine all that into your financial plan. Another thing you want to do is you want to set the right allocations, right? If you're just starting out and you're in your late 20s, early 30s, you want to be pretty aggressive. And I don't know what that number is for you. It all depends. But you know, you may want to be in an 80-20 portfolio where 20%'s in bonds and 80%'s in stocks. And if you get a big downturn, hey, time is your friend when you're investing. The more time you have, the more time you have to rebound from those market downturns, and time you have to build that portfolio. If you're in all bonds in your younger years, you're going to miss out on a lot of growth potential. So that allocation needs to be set early. And then as you get towards your 40s and going into your 50s, you need to start rebalancing that to make sense for your retirement plan. Because if you've done a good job, you'll be able to dial that back so that these market downturns aren't going to devastate you. You know, when you get hundreds of thousands of dollars into your retirement plan and you take a 20% dip in the market, that can really hurt. You know, but if you got time, it'll rebound, it'll come back out, and you'll be just fine. History tells me that. I'm not making any big claims here. I'm not a professional financial advisor, and I'm definitely not a great investor. But history's going to tell you that if you stay in the market, if you have the time to take a little more risk in your younger years. But as you get older, you want to dial that back. And me personally, I retired earlier this year. I'm staying in a 60-40 portfolio, and I'm hoping to drop that back to a 50-50 portfolio here before too long. But rebalancing that as you go along really helps, because what else can happen is when the market's doing really well, like it has for the past couple of years, and you can end up, you know, being in a 90-10 when you started out in a 70-30. So you got to take a look at that, and you got to rebalance that once in a while. So if you are getting value out of this video, I'd appreciate it if you'd go ahead and hit that like button. Now, another thing you can do is you can diversify your portfolio a little bit, right? Not only in the ratio, but in the tax strategy as well. So what I mean is you can put part of your money in a Roth. And I would kind of suggest, again, not a financial advisor, I would suggest that you're putting some money into a traditional and some money into a Roth. And, you know, get that balanced out for what makes sense for you financially, because a traditional, you're going to go ahead and get a tax break right away, where in a Roth, you're going to go ahead and pay the taxes on that money and then get that tax break later on with the gains. So you got to look at your own personal financial goals and the income where you are now and figure out which is best for you. But I would suggest putting some in both types of accounts. And an HSA is a good program to be in as well, a health savings account, if that's offered to you by your employer. And you may be thinking, well, you know what? I need those tax breaks now. I need them now. I'll worry about later. But what you got to remember is when you're in a Roth account, all the money or all the growth potential that your money makes, that's tax-free as well. And it doesn't count towards RMDs or required minimum distributions. And I think a lot of people who are well into their retirement now are looking at the RMDs and wishing they had done something a little bit differently to help out with the tax strategy in retirement, because taxes are huge in retirement. That is one way that you can really help yourself out. Myself personally, this is my account of it. If I had more, you know, money that I had saved up after taxes, I wouldn't have to pay $1,700 a month in health insurance. You know, if you can make your income look like you're making less, then I could, you know, go to the Affordable Care Act website and probably get much cheaper insurance. But unfortunately, I can't do that. So that's why retirement planning early makes a lot of sense. Now, one of the biggest cons to a Roth program is basically you're taking and you're paying, let's say, 25% taxes on that money. Well, that's 25% that could have been in the market. So you're taking that right off the top. And when you look at growth potential and you look at, you know, the effective versus the marginal, it can get tricky as to which way is better when you're looking at straight up dollars. But to me, I think it's good to have flexibility in your retirement plan and a good tax strategy. So seek out a professional when you're going to make these decisions about your retirement planning. Okay, and don't borrow from your retirement plan. Okay, just don't do it. I know it makes sense, or you may think it makes sense. I'm going to pay myself back with interest. You know, in the long run, that paying back that principal interest isn't going to mean much. And some 401k plans, I have heard, will let you pay it back. Like me, I borrowed once from a 401k plan, And I couldn't put the money, I only borrowed $3,000, but I couldn't put it back in. I had to pay it out in time. So that $3,000 was not in the market making money for me. I have heard actually from some subscribers that their plans will allow that. So if you need an emergency loan, that you can get that loan and then you can pay that full amount back in when you get ready. If you have a plan like that, it may make a little more sense. But my advice would be, if you're going to take a loan out to purchase a home, get a home loan. If you're going to take a loan out for education, get an education loan. You may pay higher interest at the time, but you're going to lose out on growth potential. So my advice would be, treat your retirement account as a retirement account, not an ATM. And watch this video next.